how much of an influence was the ska scene from the 90s that blew up? So your Mighty Mighty Boss Stones and No Doubt and Rancid and Goldfinger and Sublime. How much influence did they have on you? All those records right there.
This is all the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones records I have right. I just pulled out.
Is it them that just announced they were breaking up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shh.
They had a good run.
Don't make me cry. They have had a good run. I've actually, yeah, the Boss Tones, I would say, aside from like growing up in a small town and predominantly white community, and no internet back in the day. It's crazy to think that we existed in that time, but it was not that long ago. And our source of music was, for me, it was like magazines, TV. So I was an MTV kid, my Rolling Stone magazine subscription. That's kind of what I got. When Stone Temple Pilots first came to Toronto at the concert hall, Masonic Hall, that then became the headquarters for MTV Canada. I was a teenager. I was so thankful my mom drove me in the middle of the winter to drop me off there and stand outside in the cold and go see Stone Temple Pilots. And according to my Rolling Stone magazine subscription, I thought that they were bringing the Butthole Surfers as an opening act. I'm like, who the Butthole Surfers? This is a weird band. I better check them out. If I go to the record store and find some songs. So I get familiar with the Butthole Surfers, only to arrive at that venue to see a massive Mighty Mighty Boss Tones bulldog flag on the back of the stage before SCP came on. I'm like, what the fuck is this? The Boss Tones hit the stage. This was on their Don't Know How to Party tour. I didn't know who they were. And like I said, aside from listening to Bob Marley, and I maybe there was some Chili Peppers, No Doubt, Sublime kind of influence happening at that time too. They just changed my world. And I'm like, these guys are my new favorite band. I bought everything that I could get at their merch table and went home. I'm signing up to their mailing list. I've been meaning to write like a bit of a post explaining how deep of an influence they were on me. But I've been trying to dig out my old fan letters from them, handwritten, and little drawings from Dickie Barrett and his autograph and stuff on them and shit that was just like, that was me as a teenage kid. Again, no internet, no other way to connect. We would connect through pen pal letters or whatever, making cassette tapes. And that was the thing, TV, Much Music, MTV, the magazines, and signing up for with fan mail and getting fan mail. And I was a fanboy of Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. So yeah, that was obviously a huge, huge influence in that whole world that just drove me. And they're big reggae fans. And I mean, wrote a song about Desmond Decker and all kinds of, when those bands mention other bands, that's how you find out about their influences and who you should be checking out. And, and then me moving to Toronto after that, when I first moved to Toronto, I went to George Brown College for 3 years of graphic design. And that steered me there, but also let me immerse myself into the live music scene and the music culture. And soon, at the last couple of years of school, I started working at HMV on Yonge Street, the big flagship 333 store. And I was there for 5 years, left just in time because the Salads had already started and we were about to start some big tours and just about to blow up. But the time I spent there was my continuation of music education, and on a huge scale, again, expanding, because for Toronto being the most multicultural city in Canada, I think even the world at that time, just, you can only imagine the music knowledge from staff in there and the diversity of cultures in that one building. I soaked it all in like a sponge, man. I worked down in the basement with all the soul music, reggae music, hip hop, dance stuff, and all kinds of DJs and producers and other musicians that I worked with. We shared so much and learned so much from each other, and that built so much knowledge into me. The the dread that was a manager of mine, Billy, so much love to Billy. He's like that. He's probably on a beach somewhere, completely disconnected from all technology. I have no idea how to get a hold of the guy. I've been thinking about him a lot lately. Brought me up on so much old roots reggae and Jamaica stuff that, again, that's where all these bands were coming from and speaking about. You listen to the lyrics and listen to some deeper cuts on Sublime stuff and Boss Tones and even Bad Brains and all that stuff. That's where they're coming from, and Fishbone especially too. That's where my heart really lies, understanding all of those influences and yeah, I have a strong connection to that music, and that's where they all came from. Boss Tones were a big spark to that flame. Crazy. I was so bummed to hear them finish, but at the same time, I get it. They've been doing it for a long time. They have the right to pull that card. I can't be totally upset that they're saying goodbye, and I believe them as much as a lot of bands say, "Oh, we're done," and then come back. For some reason, I believe them this time.
When you think back to that amazing HMV experience where you had 5 years of musical access and access to music lovers that have a deep knowledge and are sharing some great stuff, does part of you get sad that experience has kind of died off with music stores that have died off? Or do you think that the access to everything now that kids have with Spotify and Apple Music and all those, that it makes up for it?
I think it does in a bit of a way. I think the scene is certainly different. But it's nice to see music stores still existing, because I would think by now that they're done. When I left, I was one of 100 some odd employees that were laid off at that time because people weren't going out to buy music, because, like I said, it was the world of MP3s were coming in, downloading of them, buying on iTunes, whatever we want to be. It was people were buying DVDs, but then that turned into sort of the same thing. Cassettes were long gone, CDs were no longer valuable, but I was super happy to see, and you can see how happy behind me to see the resurgence of vinyl come back. I'm a relatively new vinyl collector, say within the last 15 years. We're growing up at those times. I had tons of friends that were DJs and collecting records. I just didn't see the value in them at that time. And I was all about CDs. That's what we were pushing. That's what the scene was. But I think there's a couple record stores, even in Stratford. Record stores are happening now, and you can still go there and chat with people and converse about music. I think it's nice to be able to stream stuff and have access to everything, almost 99.9% of a music scape. But the downside is obvious that really easy for things to get lost in the shuffle because there's just so much out there. You probably have seen, I found out through an Alan Cross podcast that there's a site called Forgotify. I think it's forgotify.com, that basically it's a player that will play you all the songs that have never ever been played on Spotify. So I guess once you play it, that's no longer in that playlist, but it plays you because there are tens or hundreds of thousands of new songs added per day, some sort of ridiculous number like that there's so much that's never even been played, not once, by anyone, that there's a site that you can just have a player that nonstop plays stuff that's never been played. So there's that. Really easy to get lost in the shuffle. But if you've got it's who you know still. It's still how you look. And I don't know,
I've seen a post that went viral on Facebook or Instagram or somewhere where there was a billboard and it said something like, "There's nothing more valuable than a friend that recommends good music."
Oh, I've seen that before too, man. I love that quote.
And I basically
That's the
posted
truth.
it because I think I'm that friend that's just like
I do too.
always sharing music on Twitter.
I think I've shared that same thing a number of times, saying, "Yeah, I remember,
Don't,
remember
don't
people."
forget where you get your stuff from. Yeah.
I've had it. I still to this day have a lot of people say the same thing to me. Oh, I heard about that from you, or thanks to you got me into that. I love that sort of thing. I love being the connector of people to music. I feel like maybe once a year I'll just post on my Facebook or something like that. Put in the comments the name of a band that you like, and I'm going to tell you a band that you didn't know about that's similar to that, and find you something something new just for shits and giggles, man. I love that. That's why I do my that's why I've been doing this radio show online called Nice Time Theme Radio since 2013. Trying to do it monthly or as I did for the longest time, but now it's just sort of when I can dig it up. I don't want it to be a job and get bummed out by it. I want it to still be fun, but it's one of my avenues to share music and tell stories about it, so we don't forget these stories. And so I might enlighten somebody else on some music that they didn't know about that would turn their head. The other thing I do is a monthly thing in Stratford now, with records, called Revival Vinyl Society over at Revival House in Stratford. It's a bring your own vinyl event, and people bring records out. I play the songs that they write on the list and ask me to play, and we talk about it in between the records. I'm not trying to DJ them or mix tunes or anything like that, but we actually encourage conversations about what's being played. I'll talk on the microphone about what I know or don't know about this record, or what it looks like, or yell at the person from across the room, like, what is this? What do I need to know about it, or whatever. And it's a really fun interactive experience. And we've been doing that for 6 years now. COVID messes up time. It hasn't gone regularly.
Why do you think that there is the revival when it comes to vinyl? And it's cool that your event is called Revival, right?
Yeah.
Vinyl Revival. So
It's called Revival Vinyl Society, and we did that because the place is held at a place called Revival House, but also because of what you interpreted it as well too, that it's feels like there's a vinyl revival happening in the last bunch of years. And there has been, if you're looking at sales and that kind of stuff. I think it's because the MP3 is not tangible. It's not something that you can really put a value to so much, because it is what it is. It's a digital file. Although let's not talk about NFTs.
The ones and zeros, yeah.
And then CDs, as we saw, kind of seemed to be not valuable. And then just records. Why it's funny, while the sound of records, disputable, not the best sound quality. You're going to get the best sound quality with the best headphones on the best speaker with the best recording on a digital format. What's the digital format? Is it CD? Is it AAC? Is it
lossless, whatever?
Lossless. Yeah. Is it Neil on a Neil Young ping pong player, whatever,
Sorry, did you hear that Kanye West so today is what, Sunday? So on Friday coming up, he's releasing Donda 2, and you can only get it on his personal $200 player. So he has his own like Tidal or Spotify or whatever. So you have to he wants, and obviously everything Kanye does, there's backlash, and it's like the new stupid thing that he's done. But he wants everyone to pay $200 for the album essentially to play it.
And you know how many? There'll be tons of people that do it.
Oh yeah,
that's not unreasonable. Tons of people that do it. And they'll get a player with it. That's the way they're looking at it. And whatever. I think that's that. And sound quality, again, disputable personal preference. But if you're getting scientific, digital is really going to be the cleanest, probably. But vinyl just it pulls all of that stuff and just sort of simplifies everything sound wise, I feel like, and it's nostalgic to a lot of people, depending on your age bracket. Some people love that warm kind of crackly bit of sound there behind there, but for me, beyond the sound as well, I mean, I love the sound. I love the sound of a properly mastered record for vinyl. But for me also, I'm, again, like I mentioned, I'm a visual artist first and foremost too. I went to school for graphic design. I love packaging. I love artwork on a record. I love all of that physical, tangible stuff. And oh man, like, you know, when I figured I didn't have, when I realized I didn't have great copies of all of Bob Marley's catalog, they went and put this beautiful box set out. It's a massive lighter, right?
He would, yeah. That's awesome.
It's gorgeous. All the records all in here.
How many records are there? There's like 12 or something there.
There's the advertisement that kind of shows all of the albums, right? Just like beautiful packaging, beautifully remastered. The album covers are all redone the same.
Exodus, Legend,
die cut covers and embossed stuff, just like the originals. There's posters put inside of them, like some of the originals had. I love all of that kind of stuff. You're not getting that from buying an MP3 album or even a CD. It's, you know, that poster is folded up so many times, there's creases all through it.
Where did this love of music come from? Like, can you think back to like an earliest musical memory where music actually meant something to you? Because, you know, as kids, we hear music, parents are playing music, but it's just something that is. And then, you know, you might have a certain song or an album where it's the first time where it actually grips you and you feel the power of music as something that's your own.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Strangely enough, I mean, I've whenever somebody's asked me that question, well, first, whenever I've heard somebody else ask that question, another musician or a music fan, I find the answer is always that their parents were musicians or listened to a lot of music. Neither was the case in my house. My parents listened to some music, and I suppose I do have early memories of being infatuated by their small record collection, but nobody collected any music really per se. Although my stepdad did later, but that was further in my teens. I think I'd already been influenced by that time too. But anytime anybody's asked me that question, I've always thought of my first few performance memories. But thinking about it a bit deeper, I don't think I've ever mentioned this anytime in an interview before, but my earliest music memory of music really influencing me and having an effect on the way I was thinking was early elementary school. Man, like real early, but I would take the school bus, and for some reason I had a little ghetto blaster on me. It couldn't have been very big, battery powered, and I remember playing some kind of music that I was into at that time. I have no idea what it would have been. Would have been something rock, I imagine, maybe Michael Jackson. And I clearly have this memory of sitting at the back of the bus, playing this little boombox, and girls older than me, two girls older than me in particular, up over the seat in front, leaning over like, "What you doing?" kind of thing, and totally into what was going on, and that having an effect, being like, I remember a strong feeling of loving sharing the music that was influencing me with somebody else and showing it with somebody else, because it was like it was part of me, and showing it was like this, I'm showing you part of me, even though it's not, I had nothing to do with this. It's just something that has become part of me. It's weird to explain.
A little bit of vulnerability and a little bit of acceptance there as well.
Yeah. And mad excitement that people were paying it. I was listening to this with other people, and they seem to be affected by it too. Yeah. So I have a strong memory of that. But then the other prominent ones that always come to mind first seem to be performance ones, the first two performance ones, and having an audience in front of me and feeling that thing. I'm not quite sure which one came first, but one would have been at a camp that I went to as a kid. I went to a boys camp called Camp Pure Ontario on Georgian Bay, and a campfire, had some cabin mates who played acoustic guitar, and we would just sing songs before bed or whatever, jam out in the cabin. And for some reason, Blind Melon's song Change, real high pitched, slower tune, was something that I could sing in a range that nobody else was able to sing. I remember the guy playing, my friend Matt, who played the guitar, and other friends who were playing were surprised that I was able to sing that so well. Maybe we should do that at the campfire. Okay, shit, let's do that at the campfire. And the feedback from other campmates and musicians was very similar. I'm like, okay, this is cool. What's next? What are we gonna do next? That and a high school lunchtime cafe that was really just on the stage in the gym with the curtain closed. They would allow some student bands or student musicians to take the stage there and entertain kids for an hour during lunch. And I remember doing a couple Beck songs with a friend acoustically. Specifically, the one that stands out was an early folk tune of his called "Satan Gave Me a Taco."
It's a snappy title.
A snappy lunchtime song. and so that, I guess, my peers at school and then my peers at camp that had an influence and effect on me, seeing them like, wow, it's awesome, man, blah, blah, blah. Being like, okay, I got something here. Something is here beyond even just singing and the music, but it's affecting people. And I like that it makes them happy. And
were you singing before those two experiences, or that's kind of where
I think like,
everyone was just singing for fun around the campfire? And then
I think like everybody else, like singing like everybody else before then at school assemblies or church or whatever, or that kind of thing, but not really soloing anything or singing with a band or whatever. Just singing along, let's say, like everybody else. Yeah, not trying to stand out or any of that just yet.
You've talked a little bit about growing up in Stratford. So you are officially the second most famous person out of Stratford after one Justin Bieber. And, all you have to do is sell 100 million albums and be worth $500 million, and then we can surpass him as the most famous, but how much do you think Stratford itself influenced who you became as a person and as a musician?
Well, funny enough, I don't know that I would. I mean, I thank you for the compliment of the second most famous Stratford musician, but I can't take that just yet. I got to hand that to someone like Lorena McKennett is from here. She's massive Canadian Celtic music internationally
from Stratford.
Yeah, and a very
damn. What's in the water here in Stratford?
Oh man, she's heavy here too. She owns a private school and is really like, talk about somebody who really carves their own path in the music industry. She does, and in our community as well too. Heavy influence that lady has. And then another beautiful lady who closer to my age bracket that I grew up with and I didn't go to high school with, but we had mutual friends, and I knew her during our high school days and knew her when she was signed to EMI Records and launched her first album. And she still lives here and is a big pride of Stratford. And that's Dana Manning.
Oh yeah, I know Dana. Yeah.
Fantastic, beautiful friend. And my name is in the thank you notes of her first album. I think just because I put her on a few shows around town with some other friends and had connected and was really digging what she was doing. And then as it turned out, I ended up becoming good friends with a lot of the people that she was working with at EMI and through the music industry in Toronto. Then I would jump into that over the next few years because the Salads, like our Full Day to Be album and Big Picture, no, by then it was Warner. So while everything we had was released on independently, sort of a co-thing through our name is Maui Wowie Records on all of our stuff, but Full Day to Be and Big Picture were both also released through Kindling Records, which is owned by our management at that time. They had a distribution deal with EMI. So Full Day to Be came out there and had EMI's support somewhat kind of thing, the bit of their help. We knew a lot of their people. And then that same record and Big Picture went to Warner Brothers afterwards, but was still that was just the new major that was distributing Kindling. So we ended up knowing a lot of the same people and so forth. But yeah, those two in particular, Dana was a big influence just on me being like seeing one of my first witnessing a friend, go into the industry a bit more serious and seeing videos on Much Music and that kind of stuff. And wow, yeah, it was a bit closer to home. And man, Richard Manuel was born in Stratford. Richard Manuel was
Richard Manuel
in the band. The band,
like the band,
like the band,
like
band.
Bob Dylan's The Band.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Stratford native,
like The Weight.
Yeah, man.
Band.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Richard Manuel.
They've released some of the greatest albums of all time.
Huh?
Okay, so you're officially like the 5th or 6th most famous.
And you know what else? I didn't realize this. I was surprised too, because maybe she was only here for a short period of time. So I feel like I'm surprised because I feel like we're close to the same age. Maybe she's a little bit older than me. I don't know. But Estero is from Stratford as well too. I didn't even know that one until well after. A metal band called Baptized in Blood.
Yep.
Their lead singer, Joel Fenley, is a close friend of mine. He's from Stratford.
And we've opened a can of worms from Stratford. So if Estero is from Stratford, isn't her brother Jay Englishman, who is also big?
Yeah, but that's what I mean. I don't know what
you don't know if they like grew up there or when they were there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Jay was here too. And tons of people that have moved here since. Ron Sexsmith is one of my neighbors just down the street.
He's awesome.
And Paul McCartney and Elton John think so too. They're big fans of his. He's just down the street. I see him all the time, walking around town. Gene, who actually Jay Englishman, Gene's husband, Stefan Sesniak, who also plays in my Bob Marley tribute sometimes, is a dear friend. She plays with Gene. Gene is tight with the Broken Social scene. And Ian Blurton has produced her last couple records. She does kind of like I describe it as sort of a Breeders Pixies kind of a vibe. She's really rad. Her and Steph live in town.
And the more I talk, the more I do these interviews, the more the same names are coming up. Like you think, oh, it's a big world out there, but the Canadian music industry,
it's so like, incestuous. It's a big family
everyone
party.
I talk to knows everyone, and this person started here and was a part of that and referenced this person. I volunteered at Canadian Music Week way back in the day when I first graduated as an audio engineer, and I was helping out one guy that actually knew what he was doing. And at the end, he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm Jay." And then someone says, "Whatever, Jay Englishman." And I'm like you're Jay Englishman? He's like, "Yep." I'm like, "The Jay Englishman with like a platinum album?" He's like, "Yep." I'm like, "Oh my God." I was with him for like 4 hours before I knew he was the Jay Englishman that I was a fan of, like seeing his videos on Much Music. So it's such a small.
I've hung out with Jay a number of times. I feel like we've done a number of shows together and we've got a lot of mutual friends, and he's been around the scene. A fan of music again too. He's often in the crowd. We've been in the crowd at a lot of things together.
My sister used to listen to Estero, so I was lucky that I have an older sister that before I was into music, she was listening to Rage Against the Machine, Bush, Nirvana, Our Lady Peace Clumsy. I remember her having Estero, Portishead. Like she knew. I should thank her. She doesn't listen to much music now, I don't think, but
it's amazing.
Back in the day, she knew what was
whether
up.
you were actually listening to it with her or not, or in the same room or anything. It's amazing how that kind of that seeps in through like osmosis sort of thing from your youth, eh? Like you want to deny it as a kid, and my teenager denies it like crazy, but I'm constantly playing music around the house, and often with the thought in mind that they're going to love that shit when down the road, not now, but maybe not now, but definitely down the road. I love a lot of stuff that my parents were playing, specifically more when I was a little bit older and more in my teens, that stuff. And again, like I mentioned earlier, my stepdad was big into music and analyzing it. I loved to sit down and analyze music with him when he was alive, and inherited he collected like these crazy stereo pieces that I was just terrified to touch. And I own them to this day, and I'm still terrified to touch them. I hit the on off switch and I let my like engineer, like gear tech friends tweak it, and then I don't let anybody touch it, myself included. Shout out to Siegfried Meyer at Beach Road Studios, who was
London, Ontario.
Yeah, who was just here, Godrich area, who was just here the other day catching up with me and helping me tweak some of my system.